Well, hello and welcome to This Month in Hamilton. We're recording this on November 26th, 2024. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope you have a healthy, happy Thanksgiving and you get to spend the time with family and friends and loved ones while also eating a delicious meal. Let me start out, though, by thanking WBCB 1490 AM for allowing me each and every month to talk to you about what's going on this month in Hamilton, as well as thank our sponsors, Capital Health System, Haldeman, Ford and Subaru, Saul Funeral Home, and Kessel Dermatology. So busy month in November. Thank you all to who went out and voted in the presidential election this year, and obviously some of the other elections we had going on locally, Senator, Congress, County Commissioner, and School Board. So Hamilton had a great turnout. About 65% of our registered voters turned out in this year's election. So really good numbers, and it shows that people are still engaged and wanting to get out and vote on the next direction for our country. And also, like I said, down to school board and who the new school board members or continuing school board members will be. We had two incumbents reelected and one new school board member. So thank you all for turning out. Hamilton's a population of about 92,000. We have 70,000 of our residents registered to vote. And so 65%, so just about 2/3 of that 70,000 came out and vote, the most in Mercer County in terms of raw numbers of population. So really want to thank those of you who voted on election day, early voted by mail, however route you did it, it showed, and glad you got out there and voted and made your voice heard. A lot going on this month in Hamilton. So back in October, I talked to you about our new municipal building. We had the ceremonial groundbreaking in October, but this month in November, you'll really start seeing, and you should have already started to see, the real groundbreaking. There's equipment out there. They're moving dirt. They're digging holes. A lot going on. I know the eyesore of the house that's still there as well. You've seen our fire department kind of beat that house up even more for their training purposes. That house should be coming down in the next month or two as well. So we're really moving. We're still on target for our 2-year move-in date. So still on target for fall 2026 to be moved in and open to the public. So really excited about that. And then in 2025, the first quarter of 2025, you'll start seeing some steel going up, maybe later in the first quarter of 2025. So some exciting things going on there, and really appreciate the work of all who are going into making it a success, but well on our way on that project. In terms of some other things going on in Hamilton, obviously next week, December 6th, you should have started seeing the signs for Winter Wonderland. So weather cooperating, we'll have the tree lighting on Friday, December 6th at 6 p.m. The tree lighting will be at 6 p.m., but the event will be open 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. And then last year we extended the hours on Saturday. So look for extended hours on Saturday. I think it starts at 2 or 2:30 p.m. On Saturday. If your little ones like mine and they're asleep by 7, 8 o'clock, right? We wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to experience Winter Wonderland as well on Saturday. So all the things except for the tree lighting will be there Friday and Saturday. The tree lighting with Santa is just on Friday at 6 p.m. Obviously, the tree lighting is weather dependent. If there is bad weather, that tree lighting will be moved to Saturday. So look for any updates depending on weather. Otherwise, we hope you get out to Cruiser Park and enjoy all that we have at Winter Wonderland, the mansion being decorated, or pictures with Santa. Maybe it's just strolling around and enjoying the wonderful lights and getting into the spirit now that we'll be past Thanksgiving. So with Thanksgiving being so late this year, it really condenses the Christmas holiday season. So we know there's a lot to do, but we hope you'll get out there and enjoy Winter Wonderland here in Hamilton at Cruiser Park. You'll also still see a lot going on in town, though, too. We've got a lot of infrastructure work going on with our utilities. So you may encounter some issues. Right now, they're primarily near Nottingham High School, doing a lot of water pipe replacements through Trenton Waterworks. And so we just ask that you bear with us if you have some minor inconveniences that way. Now's not the time for full-on paving, so you'll see just a lot of patch jobs. In the meantime, it doesn't mean that the patch jobs are permanent. In many cases, we or the utilities will come back and do a more thorough repave through that infrastructure stuff. But there's a lot of infrastructure improvements going on. So you'll see Trenton Waterworks, you'll see Aqua, and it may be those entities proper, it may be their contractors. PSE&G is going to be doing some infrastructure improvements as well around town. So minor inconveniences, we hope you understand, but they're really great in moving this town forward, keeping our infrastructure up to date and making it so it's more reliable for you. So especially now, right? PSE&G updates on gas lines. We want to make sure your home's heated for the winter season coming up. So just bear with us, and we'll get through it. And you're going to see a lot of it, though. So please just be patient if you run into detours or traffic around some of those work. In November, we also did, speaking of some infrastructure improvement and road improvements, a renaming of a street right by our Hamilton Fire Division headquarters, located on East State Street. We renamed a street Brian D. Sutton Way. Did it on the 30th anniversary of the passing of firefighter Sutton. For those who don't know the history, he had what's called a line of duty death during a fire 30 years ago. And so I really want to thank Fire Chief and the Fire Union for bringing our attention to the appropriateness of renaming the street where our fire headquarters sits. It also happens to be, back then, it was obviously a district. He was part of that fire district. So it just made sense to rename that street after him. We had a great turnout. So for those of you who did turn out, thank you for doing so. I know his family really appreciated that. But a great ceremony in commemorating a special person who made the ultimate sacrifice in protecting his town. So we had that going on as well. Obviously now, in terms of what else is going on in the township, we're going to have all sorts of weird schedules. So this week, Thursday and Friday, the township offices will be closed in celebrating the Thanksgiving holiday. You'll have us closed on Christmas Day, the 25th, New Year's Day, the 1st, right? But we're going to have a lot of employees taking vacations and spending time with loved ones, getting ready for the holiday season as well. So if you have things you really need from the township, whether it's permits, whether it's paying taxes, whatever it may be, I would suggest calling ahead, making sure the office is fully staffed so you can get what you need and get it in. But now's the time of year where people, if not the summer, it's right up between Thanksgiving and Christmas, where employees take a lot of vacation time too, to go out and do their shopping, do their food prep, and spend time with loved ones. So we know you're doing the same, and you try to fit in things with the township while you're doing it. So just make sure you're calling ahead or allotting yourself some time so you can make sure whatever you need to get done through the township, we get done today too. Our guest today, and we'll have him on just after the break, Lieutenant Dave Schultz from our Hamilton Township Police Department. Lieutenant Schultz is the head of our Community Policing Division in the Police Division, or Community Policing Unit in our Hamilton Police Division. But specifically, he's here to talk about Ryan's Quest, a charitable nonprofit he and his wife started roughly 15, 16 years ago. And talking about their son and what made them start this charity and what it's contributed not only here in Hamilton or to the family, but beyond our borders as well. And it's just a great example of how our community comes together to help those in need. But also, I think it's certainly a testimony to perseverance. For many of us, it's difficult to start up an organization or even to run a fundraiser, let alone run it for as many years and as many fundraisers as they've run for the last 15, 16 years, and the different waves that all goes through, and what their plans are into the future too. So it's great things again, and I wanted him on to talk about not only Ryan's Quest and the great work they do and the inspiration for it, but also as an example of what it takes to make an organization run, right? And how our community together makes these things run. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Dave Schultz and talk about the work he and his family are doing with Ryan's Quest.
Capital Health's primary care network continues to grow, bringing its extensive option of locations to your neighborhood. Whether you're scheduling a wellness checkup or not feeling well, advanced medicine starts with a Capital Health primary care doctor at locations near you in Mercer, Bucks, and Burlington counties. To find a Capital Health primary care location that's convenient for you, visit capitalmedicalgroup.org. That's capitalmedicalgroup.org. Merrill Reese, here to tell you about my good friends at Haldeman Ford-Subaru on Route 33 in Hamilton Township. For outstanding sales and service, you can depend on the folks at Haldeman Ford-Subaru for the best value on new and pre-owned Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs, along with a great selection of value-priced new and pre-owned Subarus. And no one offers the service that Haldeman does in their huge, state-of-the-art service facility. Service so great that many area municipalities and commercial fleets get their service performed by Haldeman Ford-Subaru. From Langhorne to Princeton, folks like you to commercial fleets trust the name Haldeman for sales and service. Haldeman Ford-Subaru, Route 33 in Hamilton Township. Hamilton Township in Mercer County is fortunate to have many fine businesses that serve our community. Saul Funeral Home is a fourth-generation family-owned business proud to support our local schools and community. Their compassionate and caring staff is there for you and your family. They'll bring the closure you deserve while also celebrating the life of your loved one. Visit their website at saulfuneralhomes.com. That's saulfuneralhomes.com. Saul Funeral Home at 3795 Nottingham Way, Hamilton Square.
Well, welcome back to This Month in Hamilton. Want to again start out by thanking our sponsors, Capital Health System, Haldeman Ford-Subaru, Saul Funeral Home, and Kessel Dermatology. So, Dave, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for joining us today. Just before we went to break, I was talking a little bit about you, right, and Ryan's Quest. But just tell the audience a little bit about yourself. You know, I told them you're a lieutenant in our police division, right? How long you've been in the police department for? What kind of made you want to be a police officer? Just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I have a total of, it's going to soon to be 28 years. I started in the Trenton Police Department, and I transferred over here back in, I think it was about 2003 or 2004. I was born and raised here in Hamilton. My wife works for the school district, and I have 2 children here in Hamilton Township. Just one of those things. I just always wanted to be a police officer. There was no, I guess, real reason why, no family history or nothing like that. It's just something that attracted me, and that's what I pursued.
And last year or two, right, specifically with community policing. So how's that going?
No, that's going great. The chief put me in charge of the community policing unit, so we have definitely been doing more than in the past. We just started a special needs registry that should be, going live sometime in December, and just kind of getting out there, more meeting people in the community, businesses, allowing them to have a contact within the department rather than just calling, dispatcher.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what we've been focusing on.
And being visible, right? So
Yes.
obviously National Night Out had to be canceled this year due to weather concerns. And the amount of emails and calls my office got, I know how much people look forward to that event, right? But you, the chief, the PBA really put a lot of work into those community-facing events, and that one specifically.
Yeah, our staff really puts a lot of time into that. It's a lot of, organizing and phone calls and everything like that. So yes, we did receive a lot of phone calls about National Night Out. So hopefully we have better, weather next year. But the event definitely has grown over the years, as you're aware of, and I think it's something that people, look forward to now.
I think they really enjoy, and I know it's kind of morphed, right? And I tell you and your team, you're a victim of your own success, right? People love it. They love doing the CrossFit with the police officers, playing basketball with the police officers, shooting a fire hose with the firefighters who were there too. Throwing softballs at people, myself included, while we're in the dunk tank, and that's why I appreciate those 90-degree days in August while I'm in the dunk tank, right? But it really is just bringing the community together for all sorts of things.
Yeah, and that's what we really tried to focus on, getting the officers out there, giving them police T-shirts so they know they're police officers, but, hands-on with all those things you were saying, just a little bit different than I think some of the things we've done in the past. So that was really the goal, and it's successful. I think, everyone likes it and appreciates it for their own reasons. So hopefully we can get back into it next year.
Look, you know how much I appreciate going in that dunk tank. So, and I've signed up for it each and every year. But and just beyond that, right? Coffees with a Cop, I know you guys do, right? You're out at the different other community events, whether it's Oktoberfest or things like that. But just letting people see our police officers in a good light, right? In a positive light. And not only for their own interactions with them, right? But maybe inspiring people to be police officers in the future too, especially in the community they grew up in.
Well, there's that too. Yeah, I know we worked last year on trying to do a recruitment drive, trying to get more people to take the test, help them sign up for the test, which was not the easiest process, and just help them through, through the whole system. But yeah, so there's that part of it. And also some of the things that, we started doing, we call them pop-up events where, the guys will take a tent, take some of our swag, just pop up somewhere outside of a business, and, people come up there, it's not planned. Nobody knows we're there initially. So just things like that. Just trying to really engage the community, the best that at least we can.
Yeah, well, you guys are doing a great job, and I know my daughter appreciated it when you went to Friendly's, because then she got to go out to dinner at Friendly's and get ice cream. So it was a win-win for her all the way around. But so we're here to talk about Ryan's Quest, right? So take us through just the history of kind of how Ryan's Quest came to be.
Sure. So back in 2007, Ryan was 23 months old, and we started to notice some things. So, you take your son to the doctor, they think it's one thing, ends up being something else. And during that process is when we learned that, Ryan had Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It was actually December of 2007. So that month is a little eerie sometimes. However, shortly thereafter, maybe it was around February, once we got through that whole process of accepting, learning what it was all about, you kind of start looking, all right, what can we do? Where do we go? What doctors do we see? Who's trying to solve this problem? Because as a parent, especially as a dad, like, you want to fix something, right? Like, that's your natural instinct. You want to fix it. Well, obviously, Duchenne is not that easy to fix. So, there was a couple of the big charities, and, you just kind of learn, maybe you're not aligned with some of the things that they do. So anyway, we decided, let's start an organization. Let's try to raise some money and then give it to research, just with a lot of organizations probably start off doing. So that's what we did. So, with the help of an accountant here who was a really great asset during this process. He helped me fill out all the paperwork, trying to get the 501c3. I mean, it's a process, but we did, we got it successfully. And then we just, we started doing events. I remember I had a little notebook where I would keep notes, and I put $25,000. That's my goal this year. I want to raise that. And then we well exceeded that. And it kind of grew really fast, maybe a little too fast. And I feel like every season we're doing another event and everything like that. But, we just wanted to do something.
Sure.
no, we're not going to solve the problem on our own. However, like, let's play our part in this. If everybody does something, because back then there wasn't as much going on in Duchenne as say there is now with the big pharma companies and things like that. So there was a lot of you know university-based researchers, startup research companies that really need like that bridge funding. They needed funding to prove their concept works in order to get the big NIH grants and the real big money that we couldn't help with. So that's kind of the place where I felt we could help, is helping organizations and people like that with some bridge funding to go after the bigger dollars. So
and that hopefully leads to a breakthrough down the line somewhere, right?
Yeah, that's what you hope. It's obviously, but there's more failures than wins with drug development, obviously. But that was what our goal was, and during that time, we started just going to conferences, finding other parents like us, because all over the country there was a bunch of little Ryan's Quest, with their own charity name, the namesake of their child and whatnot. And over time we work together with them, so that way we can make bigger contributions, more meaningful contributions, and you met a lot of good people along the way. Some
I'm sure.
of my best friends now I've met through that road.
So going back a little bit, right? Because there was a lot there. So what, for those who don't know, what is Duchenne's?
Right. So Duchenne muscular dystrophy, basically it's a genetic disorder that you're born with. You can't catch it. You can either have it, it could be passed down through the bloodline, or it could be a spontaneous mutation. Right now, the latest stat I think is 1 in every 5,000 births will have Duchenne, and of that, 1/3 will be a spontaneous mutation where nothing in the family, just happens, like some other disorders. So that's how it happens, so to speak. It's on the X chromosome, so it only affects males. Women can be carriers. They may have some cardiomyopathy issues, but primarily it's just boys. Everything's normal at birth. 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, depending on the child and their progression, you'll start noticing, well, he's not running. He took him longer to walk. He kind of crawls, waddles funny, and you start, asking yourself what's going on here. You go to doctors. A lot of doctors don't pick up on it.
They say kids progress in their own way, at their own speed, all those kinds of things, right?
So, anyway, that's usually how most people, they stumble across the diagnosis. Ours was a lot earlier. It was because Ryan was sick, but it ended up his liver enzymes were elevated, which is, a result of that. And that's how we came across it. So we had a really, really good doctor locally that, was not afraid to send for tests and dig a little deeper. And because of that, we found out earlier, which, I'm kind of glad we did. And some people said, oh, we could have had a few more years of not worrying. But, we jumped right in with whatever we could do, whether it's supplements, stretching, different types of, medicine. So, I'm kind of glad that we found that earlier than later. So that's how most people find out. But what Duchenne is basically, your body, your muscles break down. You go to the gym, you break down your muscles, and then they rebuild and they get bigger. Well, Duchenne, they break down and they don't regenerate to the same degree. And over time you become weaker and weaker and weaker. It affects pulmonary, it affects cardiac, so it's totally encompassing.
So it's not just biceps and quads, right? Any organs that are also involved in muscular, right? Your heart's a muscle, right?
Your heart is a muscle, right? And that's a little slogan that we've put out there before. Your heart is a muscle. And basically over the years, by not being able to regenerate at that level, eventually have to use a wheelchair. They can lose the ability of their arms, and just pretty much to where they have basically their fingers left to where they can move. Everybody progresses at a different level, speed, I should say. I mean, there's some kids by 8 years old, they're non-ambulatory in wheelchairs, and then there's some that are 18, 19 years old. So it varies a lot. There's a lot of different, there's 79 exons, and where you're missing one or whatnot, kind of sometimes phenotypes will dictate that. So it varies a lot, but by the time they're in their late teens, they're all kind of usually around the same page of where they are with the disease. And it is a fatal disorder. Now people were living to their early 30s, whereas years ago it was late teens. That's what we were told. So with some of the medicines that are coming out, it is prolonging things. However, there is no cure still for Duchenne. Yeah.
So obviously, December '07, right? You and your wife get this diagnosis, right? And as you said, you got to pour your heart into something. You got to try to fix something, right? What made you say, well, we're going to create Ryan's Quest? We're going to create a 501c3 here.
Yeah, well, because what else do you do, right? I mean, there's really nothing else other than, try to find the best doctors, which we did. You're flying all over the country trying to find the best, specialists. But outside of that, what can you do, right? So you want to help fix the bigger problem, which is let's find the cure, let's find the treatment. I always like to use the word treatment, not cure, because I was trying to be realistic. Let's help find a better treatment. And the only way to do that is with money, right? Money makes the world go around. So the only way to do that was try to do these events. And, we're local people. I didn't have no big money companies in the family. So you're doing these local charitable events. You're at the support of your community and the businesses, and they really came together. I mean, especially in those early years. I mean, I look back on pictures sometimes. I mean, I think the whole police department, whoever wasn't working that day, was out there, manning volunteer stations and stuff like that with some of the events we did. And it really just continued to grow. And but to get back to your question, it was just like we had to do something. Like, what else do you do? Complain, think someone else is going to do it, feel sorry for yourself. Like, that's not going to change anything.
Sure.
So,
all right. Well, we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about, all right, now you've decided to do this and kind of what goes into that, right? And its progression a little bit. So we'll be back with Dave in just a little bit.
Kessel Dermatology in Hamilton Square is an award-winning dermatology practice led by Dr. Daniel Kessel, a board-certified dermatologist. He and his expert staff treat patients of all ages. They offer treatments of all types of skin, hair, and nail conditions, and annual skin cancer screenings, anti-aging treatments, ultraviolet A and B light treatments, skin tightening procedures, Botox, and other treatments that enhance your skin's overall health and appearance. Kessel Dermatology is open Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Friday, 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. For appointments, call 609-890-2600. That's 609-890-2600. Or visit KesselDermatology.com. They're at 1700 Whitehorse, Hamilton Square Road. Kessel Dermatology. They're good. Merrill Reese, here to tell you about my good friends at Haldeman Ford-Subaru on Route 33 in Hamilton Township. For outstanding sales and service, you can depend on the folks at Haldeman Ford-Subaru for the best value on new and pre-owned Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs, along with a great selection of value-priced new and pre-owned Subarus. And no one offers the service that Haldeman does in their huge, state-of-the-art service facility. Service so great that many area municipalities and commercial fleets get their service performed by Haldeman Ford-Subaru. From Langhorne to Princeton, folks like you to commercial fleets trust the name Haldeman for sales and service. Haldeman Ford-Subaru, Route 33 in Hamilton Township.
Well, welcome back to This Month in Hamilton. I want to again start out by thanking our sponsors, Capital Health System, Haldeman Ford-Subaru, Saul Funeral Home, and Kessel Dermatology. So when we left, we talked about, you got to do something, right? So you and your wife decide in late 07, early 08 that you're going to form Ryan's Quest. You started talking a little bit. You got to get an accountant. You got to do all the paperwork. But what kind of, what goes into starting something like this up? Or specifically, what went into starting up now Ryan's Quest?
Sure. Well, God, there's a lot of things, but yeah, so the basics is you have to get that 501c3 here, so you're a tax exempt public charity. So once that was established, you have to come up with logos. You need someone to, I remember, I know nothing about computers, and I was trying to, I don't know if it was a website or a blog site. I was trying to put something together, and I ran into somebody. Actually, he called me and he says, "Hey, I'm so-and-so, and I heard what you're trying to do." I said, do you need some help? I was like, you have no idea. Do I need some help? And and this guy's name was Dave. He recently passed to cancer. Best guy in the world, but until he passed, he was there helping us since 2008. So you find people like that along the way that, for whatever reason, they stick around. People will come and go all the time, but then there's some that just stick around, and that's a lot, and that's special. It's selfless, so we're grateful for that. But so yeah, you have to get all the stuff right with the charity, with the state, with the federal government, and then what are we going to do now? So you start learning about raffles. Oh, we need raffle licenses. Nothing's easy, right? I mean, and
Yes.
for because obviously there's people out there doing things that are wrong, so you have to make rules and you have to follow them. So we picked an event, and it was a picnic, is what we called it. It was at Tall Cedars Picnic Grove, which is an area off of Sawmill Road, and that's pretty much what it was. And over the years, we did that every June. I think it was the first weekend in June. It just kind of morphed into then we called it the Fest, the Ryan's Quest Fest. I mean, we had everything out there. People were juggling fire, monster trucks. I mean, it was, and everyone loved it because it was just like a reunion of everyone that went to Hamilton schools. Now they have their young children, and it just continued to grow and grow and grow to where eventually we ended up moving it to Mercer County Park one year. But that was really what I feel like so many people remembered about the charity. And did we make a ton of money off of that? No. But as far as awareness about the charity, awareness about the disease, it was it was key. And that opened other things. Then people who come to the event, they may work for a company that does a jeans day or does and it just continues to grow like that because you're making them aware of what this is all about.
Sure. And that's part of it too, right? Raising money, and we'll get to the money, is part of it. But awareness is so much, especially for a rare disease,
Absolutely. So we did that event, and then it was just kind of people would kind of throw ideas at us. Oh, let's do a dinner dance. Let's do a golf outing. Because, a lot of people want to help and they all have their own ideas. So we did a whole lot of stuff. We did comedy shows. I mean, I think back at some of the stuff we did, I'm like, oh my God, at the Trenton War Memorial, did a comedy show. And then after a couple of years, you kind of focus on, all right, these are my couple events, so we did, we continued doing the Ryan's Quest Fest. We did a golf outing, and then we did this beast, the Valentine Ball that we always did, which I know you were there a few years. And it was a lot, and that generated a lot of money and awareness. So basically it was just, you're always just thinking about what can we do to raise more money? That's, as a charity, that's what charities do, and some things work, some things don't work. Didn't have no roadmap. Wasn't trying to, follow anyone else, kind of just, figured out what worked for us,
And you talked about it, right? You work for the police department, your wife's in the school districts, you're both public employees, right? You don't have Google who can come in and write $100,000 check or something like that, right? So you're getting all these smaller donations and volunteer hours and all that kind of stuff that goes into it.
That's exactly it. I mean, it was a true meaning of grassroots. I remember one time, I think it was the first year, we received a check in the mail from someone for $5,000, and I was like, don't even know this person. I was like, and to us, it was the biggest thing in the world, so they're out there.
Sure.
But to your point, it wasn't, my uncle didn't work for Facebook or Twitter. So it was just grassroots fundraising, doing events, and then eventually after the first year or so, hey, well, let's get sponsors because that can help pay for these things and raise more money, and then the event becomes an opportunity to get sponsorships, and it's the way it goes for all organizations. So just continued to grow, and that was kind of the path that we followed for a long time.
So you've got now 08, 09, these Ryan's Fest, right? And smaller donations. But what's the goal, right? Especially as you're having these first few in terms of, all right, we're going to raise some money, and what's the goal after that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, before the goal, also, I should have mentioned, during this, you have to, create a board. You need that legally, have a board of directors. I never did anything like that. And a few of the people that we started with in 2008 are still on the board now.
Oh, wow.
Well, probably not supposed to do that. They're supposed to rotate, but when you find people that want to stick around, they're going to stick around.
Sure.
So yeah, that was new to me, articles of incorporation and all these things. But again, you have people, help you through, and you get by. But yeah, there's a few people, and they know who they are, and I'm very grateful for everything they've done. So what did we want to do with the money? So what we wanted to do with the money was kind of, we always said, we wanted to get it right into the researchers' hands that were doing the work. We didn't want to give it to a bigger organization that had, costs. And I understand, I learned a lot now, like you need to have costs and salaries to run big organizations because it's just how it is. But back then it was like, this is blood, sweat, and tears money. Like, and we were able to do that, again, finding some of the university-based setting, academics that were involved in research, and again, some of the startup companies that were involved in research. So we were I remember one time on the website, we just kept a running list of everything that we donated to and how much. And it was just, you look back and you're like, holy cow, Eventually my website guy was like, listen, this continues to grow. So eventually I was like, all right, just take it off and just put an amount on there. But, so we were able to do that, and along that way, we also gave to some other nonprofits for Duchenne nonprofits. They were working on a particular initiative, so we helped support that. So that was initially what we were, our goal was with the money and what we were doing with the money, and it seemed to work, and before you know it, you have people reaching out to us from different, again, companies, universities, asking for like research grants. I'm like, oh my God, like what's going on here? This is not ready for this. But along that route, I ran into a friend who I graduated here in Hamilton, and someone who graduated with me, he went on to Hopkins and into the medical field. And I ran into him ironically, the game's in 2 days, at the Thanksgiving Day game. I haven't seen him in years. And, we start talking, I tell him what's going on. He's like, let me help, I said, okay, sure, help. So a long story short, he was working in a lab at Hopkins in a cancer lab there. He actually ended up leaving that and focusing on Duchenne for a long time. So he helped me a lot along the way, kind of, because listen, there's people out there with not all the best intentions too, especially with some of these startup companies. So he really helped a lot. So I was always afraid of not getting scammed, but putting money where it doesn't matter. Like, we're not raising millions. We can't waste any of our money on someone's pipe dream. So that was helpful along the way, but that's pretty much what we did in the maybe first 10 years. That was solely our focus, and then it started to change a little bit. We started to realize that pharmaceutical companies started to get involved with Duchenne. The big names that you know of, they started to get involved with Duchenne, which is a great thing. But with that, they don't need your money. And at the same time, we started to, as Ryan got older, we learning, meeting these families and learning with some of the things that they're dealing with, their needs. If say there's clinical trials going on, but the company doesn't cover travel. We did a travel grant so that the family can travel together to the clinical trial site, because if you don't have the money, you can't afford to take a train, a plane, or take off work 2 days. And so we did some of those, which I felt really good about. It was helpful, especially because
you could see the impact, right?
You can see the impact, and and a lot of times it's okay, the child's covered and one sibling. Well, if you have an older child with Duchenne, it's a lot to travel with them, and it's usually a 2-parent job, so we're able to pay for the other parent to go along, allowed us to do that. So that was great, and then as it just continued to go, you start learning, okay, wheelchairs that aren't covered by insurance, putting a ramp on someone's house, vans are the big thing now. There's so many. It's very expensive to take care of somebody with a disability like this and provide them with a really good quality of life as far as the things that they need. Just not enough to check the box to make it accessible. You know what I mean? You want to make it nice. You want to let them get onto the beach. Well, insurance company's not going to pay for a beach cruiser to push your child on the beach, but hey, they're $1,500, $2,000. A lot of people can't afford that. Yeah. So lately we've been really helping a lot of families, deal with things like that.
Those quality of life things, right?
Yep. Yeah. The handicap accessible vans are ridiculously expensive. And for the most part, they're junky because they gut them out. But, people need help with them. So we're constantly, we're not buying the whole van ourselves because a brand new van is probably $90,000 now, but we'll get together with these other charities and help people, accomplish that. Sometimes it's 2 charities. Sometimes I was on an email chain, there was 10 charities that were all kicking in to help this family. So that is, it makes you feel good.
Sure.
But it's not only a feel good feeling, it's you're really making a difference. Like you're really making a difference in the quality of life of these families, just not even the child or young man, it's the families and the stress that comes off of them, that now they have an accessible van, or they're not carrying the child into the house because they have a ramp. So we've been doing more of that lately than anything, but at the same time keeping open the idea of when there's a need for, say, initiatives, we'll do it. I'm very, like, as far as outside of the equipment, I'm focused on the cardiac part of this, and there's been cardiac initiatives focused on Duchenne, so we've contributed money towards them, because believe it or not, not everybody's following the same protocols. Not all the doctors are following the same protocols. So there are some bigger nonprofits that are focusing just on that, but they need money for these working groups and stuff like that. So we've been focusing on that. Everyone's on the same medicines, or what are the medicines you should be on. I can go on and on, but with a rare disease, and especially once you get to the middle of the country, like a lot of them are on their own page. On the coast, yeah, they're a little more up to date, but in the middle, it's
We've got access to a lot of great children's
Yes.
hospitals, right? So whether it's CHOP, whether it's Boston, whether it's Johns Hopkins, you've got, obviously we're in New Jersey, a lot of the pharmaceutical companies are here, right? So a lot of that you have access to where maybe other families and individuals don't, right?
This is definitely the case. Yeah, I've learned that more than ever. At least we're fortunate to live where we live. But so, and again, helping them is it's just been a priority, you know. So it's worth all the hard work when we can send a check and they send a picture of their son getting in the back of the van, whereas before mom and dad were firemen carrying him into the car, and it's we shouldn't be like that here in this country.
Sure. Well, Dave, we got to take our last break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about what events you got going on, right? And you talked about your website and getting people to your website or your Facebook page so they can get more information, right? But we're going to take our last break, and we'll be back and finish up in just a little bit.
Okay.
Kessel Dermatology in Hamilton Square is an award-winning dermatology practice led by Dr. Daniel Kessel, a board-certified dermatologist. He and his expert staff treat patients of all ages. They offer treatments of all types of skin, hair, and nail conditions, and annual skin cancer screenings, anti-aging treatments, ultraviolet A and B light treatments, skin tightening procedures, Botox, and other treatments that enhance your skin's overall health and appearance. Kessel Dermatology is open Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Friday, 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. For appointments, call 609-890-2600. That's 609-890-2600. Or visit KesselDermatology.com. They're at 1700 Whitehorse, Hamilton Square Road. Kessel Dermatology. They're good. Capital Health's primary care network continues to grow, bringing its extensive option of locations to your neighborhood. Whether you're scheduling a wellness checkup or not feeling well, advanced medicine starts with a Capital Health primary care doctor at locations near you in Mercer, Bucks, and Burlington counties. To find a Capital Health primary care location that's convenient for you, visit capitalmedicalgroup.org. That's capitalmedicalgroup.org. Hamilton Township in Mercer County is fortunate to have many fine businesses that serve our community. Saul Funeral Home is a fourth-generation family-owned business proud to support our local schools and community. Their compassionate and caring staff is there for you and your family. They'll bring the closure you deserve while also celebrating the life of your loved one. Visit their website at saulfuneralhomes.com. That's saulfuneralhomes.com. Saul Funeral Home at 3795 Nottingham Way, Hamilton Square. Merrill Reese, here to tell you about my good friends at Haldeman Ford-Subaru on Route 33 in Hamilton Township. For outstanding sales and service, you can depend on the folks at Haldeman Ford-Subaru for the best value on new and pre-owned Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs, along with a great selection of value-priced new and pre-owned Subarus. And no one offers the service that Haldeman does in their huge state-of-the-art service facility. Service so great that many area municipalities and commercial fleets get their service performed by Haldeman Ford Subaru. From Langhorne to Princeton, folks like you, to commercial fleets Trust the name Haldeman for sales and service. Haldeman Ford-Subaru, Route 33 in Hamilton Township.
Well, welcome back to This Month in Hamilton. I want to again start out by thanking our sponsors, Capital Health System, Haldeman Ford and Subaru, Saul Funeral Home, and Kessel Dermatology. So we've been talking about Ryan's Quest now for 2 whole segments, and it dawned on me that we haven't let people know how to get information about Ryan's Quest, how to contact you, right? So what are some of the ways people watching or listening can reach out?
Sure. Our website is ryansquest.org. We have a Facebook page, and our email is just info@ryansquest.org. And if you have an idea or a suggestion, fire it away.
Or a donation.
Or a donation, as you can donate on the page on ryansquest.org, yes.
And so, starting out in Ryan's Fest, right? Tall Cedars, where are you today, right? Through that natural progression of, look, what your family situation is, what volunteer situations are, right? And where you're finding the balance, right? Between how much you're putting into it, what you're getting out of it, those kinds of things. So what's the main kind of fundraiser drive now?
Right. So, as I said, when we were progressing through the early years, trying to figure out what worked, we narrowed it down to we were doing a Valentine ball, we were doing a 5K, a golf outing, and then the Ryan's Quest Fest. And we did those events for a long time. And then, it got to a point, maybe 2016, the Ryan's Quest Fest, while it was great, the amount of work that went into it and then the return, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. So we kind of stopped doing that, and we focused on the other 3. And then COVID happened, and obviously the world shut down. And the one thing that came out of COVID that was, I won't say a good thing, but maybe kind of
silver lining, right?
Silver lining was that, like, whoa, you got to slow down. I mean, we were doing a lot. I mean, some of the, our friends that come over 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, they're leaving my house, preparing for events for weeks before the event, not just the day of the event, you get volunteers that come out of the, the woodwork, but it's that leading up to it, and listen, and I've never had the volunteers tell me they were done. It was more or less like, hey, we got to slow down. Like, you need a break. And so, after COVID, we decided that we were just going to stick with the golf outing. We had some really good supporters and sponsors in that event, and it was successful. And so I said, let's just stick with this, and we'll revisit the other things. And then, we'd have a board meeting, and somebody would say, hey, let's bring back the ball. And, and it just, you have to balance quality of life versus this. So I'm okay with just doing what we're doing now, and then every now and then people make donations or little fundraisers and such. But as far as a big event that we do, we just do that now. We do it in the month of May, and it's the last several years, including this year, it's at the Foresgate Country Club. So it's a really great event.
You get a lot of people.
And we staff both courses with volunteers and everything. And I say it every time I do a speech or we're going to, it's the volunteers. I mean, they take off of work to come volunteer, and that says a lot. That says a lot to, take a vacation day to go, bust your butt pretty much. And we couldn't have done any of this without them. I mean, there's a lot of amazing people over the years. And like I said, some of them are still here from day one, it's amazing.
And that's, I think, part of the reason I wanted you on too, right? It's the great thing about this community, right? Is you and your wife couldn't do these things alone. I mean, there's no way, right?
No.
You need a volunteer army of people to whatever event it was and wherever it is now to get you to where you are.
That's what I used to say at the Valentine Ball, is that the army of volunteers, because that's what they were, and everybody had something to offer, whether it was helping get an item, whether it was, be a boss at an event and get things under control. Like, everybody had something to offer. And yeah, so that's how we got to where we are, or we were, where we are. And as far as events, we're just gonna kind of, for now, just focus on that. And, that generates enough money to allow us to help, do some of the things I had said, helping with some of these accessible vans and home modifications and such like that. One other thing I'd like to mention is that we help with getting assistance dogs, service dogs. because nothing's free. But so that was great to be able to help somebody get a service dog. So
I know how much those cost now that we got a canine for our police department, right? I mean,
yes,
they are not. They're not in. Yeah, they're not cheap. Yeah.
they're not cheap, but they yeah, I've seen some of the work that they do, and it's quite amazing. So so that's where we are with events, and I think for now we're okay with that. I don't see myself wanting to do much more at this point. We're not getting any younger, of course. So
and just even for you and your family, right? And
yeah,
spending time with Ryan, with your other son, right? And enjoying life too, right? And not just solely
and
focused on
that's it.
things.
You get caught up in those events, and the phone rings. You're afraid not to answer because it might be somebody willing to help out the charity, and you find yourself, doing that and walking away from something at home, and it's all for good reason why you want to do it, good intentions, but yeah, you can easily get lost. You can get lost in doing that. So I think we've gotten a very good grasp on it now. It's a good balance now. It's manageable. I can see us continuing to do this, for some time. I never wanted to put like a end year on it that we're going to stop, because as far as I'm concerned, I hope I never stop.
Sure.
As long as I can do it, there's always going to be a need for help along the way for people. So that's kind of our plan.
So where do you see? We're right at the tail end of 2024, right? So where do you see 2025? Ryan's question. Where do you see it over the next, even the second half of this decade, kind of thing?
Yeah. Hopefully, maybe Ryan will take it over.
He's in college now. He's learning how to do these kinds of things, right?
He is in college. He loves college. I mean, loves it probably too much, but he's having a really good time. So yeah, I mean, I try to just take year by year. You know what I mean? It's just probably easier that way. It's safer that way. To not put any. I don't want to put any more pressures on myself or anyone else. There's no overhead, which is great. Other than paying for our website, I mean, there's no overheads. There's zero cost to keep the charity going, so there's no pressure either. Some of our volunteers, like we have a treasurer it's an accountant who's absolutely amazing. She does everything for us, and it's done right, and there's no cost there for us. So things like that are huge.
Sure.
So
because that money then gets funneled to grants, right? It gets funneled to research or attracting doctors to do research.
Well, and that's
right?
that you mentioned that. So just recently we were in Washington for a kind of a roundtable discussion where they pulled in some charities, some physicians, kind of a mix of people to kind of like look at the transition from childhood to adulthood. And I never realized there was such a gap there with a rare disease. But one of the things I learned from some of these doctors, some were from CHOP, they were very good physicians, is that there is a shortage of doctors that wanting to go into these specialized fields. So what I think we would like to do, because I've heard it's another charity that did it, is like a fellowship grant trying to get some professionals into the Duchenne field, because obviously that's important for a lot of reasons. So yeah, that was something that I think I want to look at to see how we can do that, effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need those smart minds, right? Focusing on treatments or coming up with new ideas for treatments that haven't been thought of before, that type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and along those lines, like I think we were saying in the last segment, was that there's such a divide, of how do you treat a child with Duchenne cardiac wise. You know what I mean? There's a slew of medicines, but like it seems like a lot of doctors are all doing their own thing, but among the real professionals, not real, but the centers of excellence, so to speak, they have protocols that they use. So it's helping getting that out there, to the hospitals,
even raising awareness to doctors and medical professionals, right?
Yes. Yeah. So there is a bigger charity that does a lot of work with that. So, I would like to help them do that, through some funding and whatnot.
So Dave, we just have a few minutes left here. For those listening or watching, what do you want to leave them with about, Ryan's quest or running a charity or any of the kind of topics we covered, right?
Well, I think the big picture is everybody can do something, no matter what it is you're trying to raise money for, whether it's a health related issue, whatever your calling is, whatever your love is, like do something. Don't expect somebody else to do it. You know what I mean? And just do what you can. And I think that makes a big difference if everybody does what they can. right? And a lot of little things equal big things. So that's my advice to anybody, but make it manageable. You're
Mm-hmm.
not, don't try to change the world right away. Um, and as far as Ryan's Quest, I mean, any support anyone's willing to give us, thank you, whatever that is. But yeah, just like don't take no for an answer. Nothing's impossible, but do your part. That's really like the takeaway that I like to give people because I, met along the way. Just do what you can, but do something, whatever that is.
And it must seem, if you go back to late '07, early '08, right? You probably can't envision where you're at today, right? But it's all those small steps that lead you to where you are today, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I couldn't, I still can't believe, Ryan's in college right now,
Mm-hmm.
he's thriving in college. So he's doing really great. And, maybe because we found out so early and, we're trying to do all the right things, whatever it is. But yeah, didn't know can't believe where we are now.
And it seemed like probably a big thing to tackle, but you took little bites right along the way.
Yeah.
Not just you and your family, but those volunteers too, right? And you wind up getting a lot further than you probably seemed like you could get, 16 years ago.
Yeah, you get a voice is what you get from standing up and doing things. I remember, Congressman Smith, his office would call me to come down to Washington, so he would want to learn what I know about certain bills and stuff like that. And if I didn't have the charity, he wouldn't have known who I was. So I was able to give my input as one of his constituents at the time. So that's what I mean. Like, do something, whatever that is. It's advocate. So yeah, it makes a difference. Just don't sit home.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today to keep raising that awareness, to keep having a voice, right? For Ryan's Quest, for those with Duchenne, for those family members helping a loved one with it too. So to our audience, thank you for listening. Thank you for hopefully your support of Ryan's Quest, either in the past or in the future. And thank you for joining us again for this month in Hamilton. Want to thank WBCB 1490 AM for again allowing and giving us a platform to allow us to bring you what's going on this month in Hamilton. Want to again thank our sponsors, Capital Health System, Haldeman Ford-Subaru, Saul Funeral Home, and Kessel Dermatology. With that, we will see you in December. We won't be doing a show as late as we're doing in November this year, but we'll see you in December. Again, happy Thanksgiving to you and your families, and we'll see you before the holidays in December.